Greetings, everyone. I wanted to give you a little critique on your first project. I'm going to try and look at each of your portfolios in two different ways. One, just the photographs themselves and what they communicate and what they say and how successful I feel. I also like to address them thinking about the next project where you have to go create a poster, a political poster or whatever. I might also address how I could see them effectively being used and what they might portray in that way. So I'll try and do that for each of you. Hopefully I'll remember. Um, we will start here with Teresa's work and look at these portraits. And I think each of these is a successful, engaging photograph. I like the strength in this one. It seems a little soft, like I'm not sure if the shutter speed was low or the focus was off a little bit. It seems maybe just a little soft. I like the contrast, and I like the strength of the gaze in that image. You played with a lot with these I don't lace imagery, and I thought I'm really engaged with that sort of layering of visual information. It's something I've always been kind of fascinated with. So I really liked a lot of these images. I like this one in particular. I like the play of the pattern over the face, and again the look and the gaze and the light and the composition. It's a really nice photograph. I also think it has a lot of depth to it. And then you seem to like to push the contrast, and I think that's a good thing. Typically, most people react positively to more contrasty photographs versus average or lower contrast photographs. So that's always something to think about. Doesn't mean contrast is always better. I mean, there are some wonderful, great, amazing low contrast photographs, but typically people react more positively towards higher contrast photographs. And you seem to have played with that, and I'm not sure if you're using filters or GIMP or Photoshop or something, but I think it's good. It helps abstract the image, simplify it. I think that does it here, because we get this almost black and white boldness of this. This area just becomes falls back, and the trees become shapes, and then there are some midtones in the figure yourself there, and the bike become really important objects. And I like the whole structure of the image. I think it's kind of an engaging image, well composed image. So, and I like the figure in the bike, and there's some meaning in there, it seems like. So those are some thoughts for you. What going forward, I'm not sure which is going to be the best, or how you're going to use them. I can see a image like this certainly functioning within a poster, a very strong form figure. This could be interesting for like an issues poster. I'm not sure what the political issue would be. Conserving energy, or ride your bike, or something like that. I don't know. But so you can think about those in those ways too. All right, I gotta keep moving on here. See if I can get through everyone in one recording. All right, and now we're looking at Kate's images. We'll see if you have an album for us. There you go, great. And I think this is a very good. So I really like this photograph. I love the lines. I like how the suit, the jacket that you're wearing, just kind of merges into that negative space, the black negative space. And I love how these lines pop out and kind of frame and direct me up to the face. Then the look in your face is that seems to exhibit strength and power, and then the lighting's very nice. And I can also see this one being a very strong poster, because quite politicians, that's what we're looking at with this. Politicians often use, it's all about recognition in politics, it seems, quite often. And so they often use their face, and then trying to find a look that projects confidence and projects power, and projects positive ideals we look for in a leader. And I see a lot of those in this image. So, but I also like it just as a photograph. I think it's a beautiful, good photograph. I also think there's a lot of potential with the next project. I like this image too. I love the setup. There's just so much going on, and I think this could easily become kind of contrived, but it doesn't seem that way. Like there's so many things going on. It just seems like part of this environment. So we have our apple pie, and we have our American flag, and then on the envelope, Jews, blacks, Latinos. That's kind of interesting. Adds a different thing. And then we got the binoculars. Definitely, like I see an issue being set up here. And there's a lot of symbolism put in here, a lot of different ideas, and so I don't know. It could be interesting to see what would happen with this image pushed further. So this looks like some sort of montage. Again, I like the kind of layering of the image. It's really visually active, visually dense. There's I think it's successful. I kind of like how it's broken up into these rectangular areas. So we have all these rectangles. We have a lot of organic elements, human elements, and tables and chairs and desks and whatnot. I'm not sure. Looking forward, I'm not sure how this one could play it. It could certainly play it to me. It would seem more like a backdrop in a poster or something like that. That could work. So, yeah. All right. Those are some thoughts there. Let's keep it moving. All right, looking at Kim's images. Again, we have very dramatic lighting in this, and the looking away from the camera. It's interesting. It seems in some ways that it portrays. I don't know if it's more strength or if it's just less confrontational. When someone's looking at the camera, you get that photograph looking for. It seems very confrontational. So I think I don't know. It'd be interesting to. I'm trying to think of posters. I showed that McCain one. I think that one he's looking right at the camera. So I don't know if my criticism's really panning out here, but I think this one works well. Looking off in the distance, high contrast, the light on the face. Well structured, well created. And I can also see this one being pushed for the next project. So I think this is a successful image. Seems a little bit like grainy. I don't know if you're putting filters on it or something. There's like a little bit of a texture and a grain to it. I don't know that that's necessarily a negative thing. Certainly if we look forward to posters, photographically, it could be a technical issue. Maybe a high ISO or something like that. I don't know that necessarily hurts it. I actually like this image. There's a visual density to it, and I love the push-pull that I see between the figure overall. It's a vertical composition with a vertical figure, and then right in the middle we have these horizontal images that are different. And there's quite often a contrast, certainly between the facial expression here, and then the facial expressions presented here. There's a lot of push-pulls emotionally, push-pull compositionally, even a push-pull just in the structure of it. So I like that structure, and this one actually it just brings all sorts of ideas to my mind, and I can see this working as a poster. Get some text up here or something like that. But the other thing, I look at this and I also started thinking about, like, what a great compositional structure to use, for a video. If you could have a video where you have this strong photograph, or maybe the photographs change or something like that, but then you have this video of something here, someone talking or actions or something like that. It could be a really, to me, a strong, engaging visual composition. So I don't know. When I saw this image, there's just all sorts of ideas came flooding into my mind. So I'm not sure if you're having the same experience or not. I really like this. There's such a nice softness. Just looks like one of those family moments, and captured very well. I like the low angle rather than looking down on it. The camera's at the level with the children, mother, and the light is soft, and there's all these nice soft grays in there. And the children's actions are engaging and soft, and there's just a lot of harmony in this image, and it's a really beautiful photograph. certainly a beautiful family photograph. Um, I'm, what I start thinking about next is pushing it for the next project and how this would be used in a political sense. And it's, family values are always pushed in political ads, whether or not they follow anything that they say, they're always pushed. Um, so it could be used in that sort of context. It doesn't seem like a typical political structure for a poster, but it certainly could be. All right, I don't know. Interesting things there. So, all right, let's keep moving on here. Let's look at Shannon's work. And we'll see if Shannon has some photographs here. Great. All right, so a nice typical head shoulder shot. Though I think it could use a little bit more punch to it. Well, it's one thing. The color seems a little bit off. Like there's a little bit of a greenish tint to the overall thing, and that might be able to manipulate if you take it into a photo editor or something like that. But it also seems really soft and almost too soft in contrast. Like I want to punch it up a little bit, maybe even explore it in black and white. I certainly like the compositional structure, but I think it could use some fine tuning as an image. I certainly can see this, functioning in the next project, depending on what you surround yourself with. This one almost seems a little more interesting in some ways. I like all the negative space above it, and structurally, the next project's poster, and this image here really lends itself to the structure of a poster. We have the figure down here, and we have all this negative space, and it's kind of interesting negative space, and it's also harmonious with how it fits with the figure. So I think this image, has a lot going on for it, and would also be a very flexible image. You could put just about any text or verbiage up there, and change and alter the meaning of the photograph. That's definitely something we're looking at and thinking about with the next project is image, text, context. All right, here's a pretty creative selfie. Using the mirror, but also the camera. We get to see parts of the camera, and we're having another camera photograph this. There's a lot of layers to this. Both visually with the screens and the mirrors and the reflections. But I also think conceptually there's a lot of layers to the photograph like this. So I think that's interesting concept. Now, on the other hand, I'm not sure what I would do with this sort of image with the next project. Thinking about posters and politics, or some sort of social issue poster. That's another way to look at this next project. Doesn't necessarily have to be a political campaign, but could also be a social issue campaign. Maybe the one thing I think about is like the NSA and surveillance with this image with this. So that's kind of interesting thought. So, all right, good. And we have one more here. I'm not sure what you're doing. It looks a little bit like the making fun of the kissing the baby photograph. It seems a little staged, and I like the image because of that, because it almost seems like we're poking fun and we're staging it, and it seems a little over the top acting. I'm not sure if that's what you're going for or not. I like the compositional structure. I like the harmony of the colors and the image and the fluidity of it all. But overall, it seems to me almost mocking, which I don't have a problem with. I think that can be fun, and that happens a lot. And that's the other part of looking at our visual culture. I started that discussion board where I found these images. Jeb Bush presented his candidacy and released his logo, and within 24 hours, people were taking that logo and creating their own memes off of that. And usually the memes are kind of mocking and tongue-in-cheek. So yeah, it's And that's kind of where I almost see this direction a little bit. So, all right, well, those are some of my thoughts on yours, Shannon. We'll move along here. We will see what Chelsea has for us. And you know, looking at your portfolio earlier, Chelsea, I noticed that you pushing things a lot, which is good. I kind of like the texture that's this. I'm always curious, you know, what the filter is or what you do to create this texture. I think it enhances the image, makes it look like a gum bichromate print or something like that. To me, as a student of the history of photography, it's kind of what I see. You know, and looking at, I like the photograph, I like the structure, I like the composition, you know, with this rectangle here, with this bottle here, and there's like a push-pull, and then you're in the middle. And then just your posturing is kind of interesting and intrigues me, and I'm not quite sure what the relationship is between you and the bottle. Seems like some tension there. We got some visual tension, but we also have, you know, ideas of other things that we can do with fluids and bottles that can create tension, alcoholism, or, you know, cough syrup, something, I don't know. That's more where I go with it. Also, the texture kind of drives that because the texture is kind of gritty and grungy and kind of adds that feel to it. I could see this thing almost working in a poster sense, getting some text or something over here, and we could change the context, the ideas, the feelings, thoughts of the image. Here we have a very nice, you know, just head and shoulders portrait. Again, the looking off, the glasses are focusing this way, but your eyes are a little bit here, but not quite confronting the camera. So there's a kind of an interesting relationship there. I like the light on the face, and I think I made a comment like the background earlier, like it's a little distracting. Not, I don't know. It doesn't totally distract me, but it doesn't really add anything either. So it's, you know, it's there. And the thing with a photograph is everything has the potential to be used in a meaningful manner. And I'm not sure, I guess that's what I'm getting, like the negative space isn't distracting, but doesn't really add anything to the image. So maybe, I mean, it does a little bit because we have this contrast of textures and directions between, you know, your face and that. So, you know, you're obviously much more organic, and then these lines are much more rigid. So there's a nice contrast there. But they don't push me anything beyond that. But I certainly think it can be an effective photograph, especially going forward with the next project. So we'll move on. I love this as just a photograph. I think it's a really nice, engaging, intriguing image. I love the hard rectilinear geometric forms here, and then the organic shadow here. I like how it kind of bleeds out up here in the light, and then we get all the texture here, and we have different light or something here, and the reflections. The figure here isn't really doing much in this photograph. There's, as it's presented here, I see no purpose for it. If there is a purpose, you know, like, okay, if I brighten up my screen a little bit, I don't know if you see it, I don't know if that may change for how you're seeing this, but I brightened up my screen a little bit, and I can see it a little bit more, and I get that, you know, sense. Looks more like a yoga pose and contemplation, and something in that line, and then it creates a little more tension. But I think we need to pull that out just a little bit more. If this figure is here at all, it needs to have just a little more presence to draw that out, and play with those ideas. Because now I kind of, it seems like a church building, and then we have this pose, and I love that structure. I also like it just, you know, without the figure there. And it looked like you had earlier another, like this portrait. I actually kind of like the play of the building. Like, I like this portrait too. So, all right, let's keep moving forward here. And we will move on to Brock. Like this portrait quite a bit. I like, the lighting, the black and white works. The background seems to play a role. Even kind of like the elongated vertical format of it. Um, I like the high contrast of the jacket and the shirt, and then also the high contrast of the background. There's just a lot of interplay between the painting behind you and the figure, and there's a nice push-pull relationship. They're harmonious, but there's also some tension there. I like these lines moving off this way, and then they're reflected here, and almost kind of fit like your collar, almost fits with the shapes of those lines. So I think it's a really effective portrait. It certainly has a lot of potential moving forward the next project, and just as an engaging image in and of itself, in my opinion. And that's something to remember. These are all just my opinions, and I'll be looking and reading some of your criticisms later to see what your opinions are. That's the one weaker point of online is that dialogue is a little choppy sometimes in getting this. So I kind of like the videos, but we do a lot of posting here, and hopefully they can find some overlap and relationships between all these various ways of presenting things. All right, looking at this image, I'm typically not a very big fan of images that are off, the horizon's off here, and this one's kind of angled funkily, and it doesn't bother me too much in this image because there's a lot of visual density, a lot of different parts, and it's not like I'm just looking at a figure that is the horizon's off on it. But because there's so much, like the way the image broken up is actually really interesting. This negative shape has a very interesting shape. All these other images, the light, the shadow, the figure, and how it integrates into the image, all seems to flow fairly well. And I can actually see this image working or functioning, even in a poster format, looking, to the next project. There's definitely some potential to use this image in a very effective and engaging way. As a pure photograph, I don't hate it, and that's saying a lot for an image that is presented without its rising properly. I don't know, I'm hung up on that. I do a lot of landscape photography, and that's one of those things that you get that wrong, and it jumps out in a negative way. Doesn't mean it's always negative, though. So, I think there is something in this image. But it does bother me a little bit. I like this. I like the, using these wires and the headphones as the sort of prop. And I think the contrast maybe and like the light's a little harsh. Like I don't necessarily like this really hard shadow here. I wish we had better, softer, more subtle lighting on the face. But also looking at concept and ideas, I can also see how this could function with the photograph as it's structured. And I like how these wires hang down. There's that little bit of negative space between them and you. I like the muted red. Everything's kind of grayscale. And I like that the red is fairly muted, but still that bold red color, kind of adds an emphasis. And we have this wire here that's also a reddish color. And there's a nice relationship, a nice play with saturation here. I think that's very effective in the photograph. So, all right, I can definitely see this one working. This seems more like an issue poster potential looking at this. So, Wired or something like that. I don't know. All right, we'll move forward here. And we'll check out what Pamela has for us. Yeah, I really like this photograph, just as a pure photograph. It's such a nice composition, such a nice play. The idea of the selfie is so big in our culture and so almost overdone in our culture. But this to me has, the selfiness of it is kind of diminished just by the composition and the structure and the gaze. And I think the grayscale is a very choice. I kind of like this really harsh light here, and then the shadows that we get. I find this an extremely engaging photograph, very interesting. Um, well done, well composed, well executed, well thought out image. I think it could work for the political. I see it like less, it's not like a politician's photograph that they would use because it's much too complex of an image for that. Politicians like to keep things very simple. But I think it certainly could be used, and it could be interesting as like an issues poster, something like that. I like this photograph too, and this is almost like from a purely compositional modernist perspective. I just like the play of the light. I love the darkness of this form and this figure here. I think it's your hair. I'm not sure, and that's okay. I kind of like the intrigue of that. And then all this negative space, and then this object here. There's a nice tension between these two things. I'm not sure what it would say in a political or social issue context, but I think there's certainly a way to potentially use it in that way. And there's a lot of flexibility because of this image's abstractness. There's a lot of flexibility in different ways it can be pushed and pulled. So it certainly has potential as we move forward. I like the structure of this too, though I do wish that this were more sharper, more in focus. It looks slightly out of focus. I'm not sure if that's basil or something. We'll get some good basil. But I like the photograph here. I like the black and white. I like all this environment I see, and the figure, and the lines leading me around, and the actions, and the props that you're using. And I like how it's juxtaposed with the plant and living. So it seems like this before and this after sort of thing. And to me, it seems like a very nice photograph and project for photography, which is what this assignment was, and just engaged with the whole concept and idea and the structure of it. Seems like an art photo piece, is what I'm trying to say, which is, in my opinion, a very positive thing. So I like the image, though I'm not sure what I would do with this going forward. And I think I'm almost speaking more about these two images, because I think the structure here has a lot of potential to be used in a poster sense. So I don't know. But there's a very nice balance with the grayscale and the color. Having the color image smaller and the grayscale bigger, helps create a nice balance. It's a very well thought out image. So I think there's a lot more flexibility with the structure and the ideas here than these two images per se for the next project. All right, I believe we have one more person's work to look at. We will look at Bianca and see what she is giving us. All right. So this is a nice portrait. The background is lovely. It almost looks Photoshop, but I'm pretty sure it's not. But maybe you can enlighten me on that later. I love how you position yourself between the yellows and these sort of magentas over here, and the background's beautiful. Looks like tagging or something like that. Maybe it's a mural. I don't know. But so I like the where you position yourself in there. Certainly has a structure. If I look forward to the next project, there's a nice structure here, a lot of negative space that we could be used to add words and text and ideas. This is just a really beautiful, engaging photograph. I love the muted, soft, abstract, rearranged colors that you've created, and the softness of the image, and the playfulness between the skull and the eyes, and this is just a nice photograph. And I can see this is, again, another part of a larger art portfolio of photographs. as far as like looking at the next project, I'm not sure how it could be used as a political poster. There's probably certainly some potential. Again, it's very abstract and different ideas and a very engaging image, so there's potential to use it. Doesn't strike me as something typically used, but that's okay. But it's a very, very engaging photograph in and of itself. All right, so this one again. I'm not sure, I'd be curious to see I'm always curious what you people are using, and maybe that's what I should set up a discussion on, is what are the tools you're using? Part of this class, I don't want to get too deep into the technical things of photography or collage or video, those mediums that we're taking on in this course, because part of the idea is when our culture today, things are so accessible. So many of us have a camera, have a video camera, or have a way to collage has always been an accessible medium because it's whatever you have around you. And digital collage today is also fairly accessible. We can, download free things like GIMP to help us make digital collages. And the next project you can do a traditional collage and photograph, or you can make a digital collage. It doesn't matter. Just give me a collage. I don't care how you do it. I just want it done and done well. So the part of the driving force in this class is the idea of how accessible and easy it is to utilize this technology to visually communicate with each other. So that's why I don't want to get too caught up in the technical things. And now I'm looking at this image here, and I'm trying to remember where I started when I went on my little rant here. The photo. I'm curious about what program you're using, or what filters that you're using, or what filters within which program you're using. They're kind of engaging. It seems like you're manipulating the image in some way, shape, or form, and that's absolutely acceptable and encouraged. Whatever you need to do to make that image engaging and speak to what you want it to speak to. So now getting the photograph, we do have a horizon that's off a little bit. I think there's potential to use this in certainly the poster context, because I kind of like how everything like leads me up to this upper left-hand corner, or there's like that burst of sun. There's kind of like a triangular form almost that pushes me up there. And there's a lot of potential to use that in a poster to help direct image or direct ideas, create an emphasis or something like that. As a photograph itself, I'm much less engaged as a photograph, though I do like, I find your positioning in there very interesting and potentially meaningful. So I like the structure of that. It just has that horizon that's off. So I love those. So. Anyways, no, I think there's a way to use it, but as a photograph, I want to rotate it. But as an illustration for a poster, a lot of potential there. All right, I believe I have gotten to everyone. If I missed someone, please let me know, and I'll post a little video later. But we're working on, pushing on probably that next project. Start working on that. Let's, if you can get some stuff up by the end of the week, I can kind of give you some input and ideas before it's due. So push forward and let me know what your questions are.